Well, top of the top, top of the morning. They uh, they definitely did what they wanted to do, as far as humiliating Bill. They definitely did. Um, they definitely they wanted to embarrass Bill, man. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to embarrass that man, and it's just really weird, you know. Let me just say this, right? So let's go to this, man, because they're saying that they released him because a deal he previously struck barred him from being prosecuted again. So this is my thing, right? If if they freed him, right? They said a technicality, right? Which has so many people confused. When they say technicality, it has so many people confused. You got so many people right now, black, white, male, female, that are against him, that are saying, you know what? I just seen a brother put a post on Instagram, an artist at that. Um, I have daughters. If you feel like Bill Cosby being released is, if you, what did the dude say? If you feel like Bill Cosby being released is a good thing, then I'm removing you from my page. If you try to dispute it, I'm going to block you. I had to go on the artist comment, a brother that I follow, I support a lot of artists on Instagram. I'll support anybody as long as I know it's positive. I said, brother, everybody has their own differences in how they feel about things. But for you to make a public post telling people that you're going to block them is not the right thing to do. What you should say is, I would love to sit down and have a discussion about this with people so that way you can get a better understanding. Because they've been coming at Bill for over 30, 40 years. They've been, pardon me, one second, this phone is. Call from Clintontail and why? Call from Clintontail. So they've been coming at Bill for 30, 40 years now. They've been trying to get this man. All right? So let's read this real quick. We're gonna read this real quick. Read this. I'm gonna read this article from to y'all from the New York Times, right? I'm gonna read this real quick. Bill Cosby was released from prison Wednesday after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned his 2018 conviction for sexual assault. A, dra- a dramatic reversal in one of the first high profile criminal trials of the hashtag Me Too era. Do you see this? A dramatic reversal in the Me Too era. This is New York Times right here, okay? Graham Boley and Julia Jacobs are the ones who wrote this column in the New York Times, okay? They wrote this piece. The court's decision seemed likely to end the Pennsylvania case, legal experts said, and while more than 50 women across the nation have accused Mr. Cosby of sexual assault and misconduct, statutes of limitations in their cases makes further prosecutions unlikely. Statutes of limitations? Mr. Cosby had served 3 years of a 3 to 10. They gave him a split. They had a 3 to 10, meaning that he would see the board at the third year with the hopes of going home and being released. But the board don't necessarily have to let you go. You could go to that board every time and they smash you at every board and you have to do your whole 10 years, right? This was a maximum security prison outside of Philadelphia, right? He's 83. Bill Cosby is 83 years old. 83? They were going to keep him locked up. He did 3 years out of the 10, right? He did 3 out of the 10. Or 2 rather. He did actually no. He did 3 out of the 10 so far. He did his minimum, right? 83 years old. They was expecting him to do another 5 or 6 years in jail. Damn near 90. They was gonna keep that man in there till 90. Woody Allen raped his daughter. They didn't do nothing to Woody. We got all of these different people in society who are allowing things to happen to women. Charlie Sheen openly admitted to having HIV. Charlie Sheen openly admitted to sleeping with different women while he had contracted the virus knowingly. Charlie Sheen is not arrested. Charlie Sheen is not even in jail. As a matter of fact, people are still watching Charlie Sheen's show. People are still watching his movies. His movies are still being watched. You cannot have sex unprotected with HIV or AIDS. That is a crime. It's like you committing murder. But what? Charlie, they slid. They let Charlie slide. Please, y'all share this. They let Charlie slide, right? They let Charlie slide, right? Look at Sean Connery, Roger Moore. Look at Clint Eastwood. All of these famous actors who had roles in movies where their main character were misogynistic, egotistical men. Look at these movies that they show us where this is depicted. Sean Connery, 007, Roger Moore, 007. They were forcing themselves on women. Clint Eastwood, Hang 'em High, Paint the Town Red, all of these crazy movies that older men in America and around the world love. These men were forcing themselves on women, right? Let's continue this. The court's decision overturned the first major criminal conviction of the Me Too era. This is the first overturned conviction of the Me Too era. Coming from an 83-year-old man who maintained his innocence about sexual accusations that were being put on him from people that spanned 2 or 3 decades. They were trying to hit him with shit that they accused him of from 20 years ago, 15, 20, 30 years ago. Bill Cosby is the first man to have a case overturned in the Me Too era. That speaks volumes. In this Me Too era, you have women out here who are pointing the finger at so many different men, and men are so afraid to deal with women. Yes, yes, be curious, talk about it. We can talk about it. This is the first overturned conviction of this Me Too era. The first. We've seen plenty of men get accused of things. Look at what Cuomo's going through right now. And I'm not saying Cuomo's innocent. I'm not saying he's innocent, because I've watched from a distance powerful men put themselves in a position where they can talk to and speak to people however they want, especially women. These are situations that I usually walk away from because I don't want no parts in it. We got to respect everybody, right? Look at everybody. Look at Sean Connery. Look at Roger Moore. Look at all those 007 movies. Look at all those Clint Eastwood movies where Clint Eastwood was taking women and throwing them in the barnyard and forcing himself on them. Look at this. You see what happened? Right, Mav Hoffa. I stuck up for Mav. I didn't care what nobody said. You know why? Because I don't know Kiki, but I know Mav. And even if Mav might be that aggressive Brooklyn dude who's real, trying to impose his will on people, I never saw it in that man that he would impose his will on a woman. I never saw it in Mav. I never saw that. That's why I stuck by Mav. I stuck by him because as a man, as a black man, we are innocent until proven guilty in our eyes, but in their eyes, we're automatically guilty. That's why everybody who ever has something bad to say about Mav, when that situation happened, my first thing was, where's her brothers? If they really about this, why ain't nobody going to see Mav then? Where's the proof at? Because if I had proof, it's nothing for me to talk about. I'm breaking you up. If anyone in my family, any woman, I don't care who it is, ever come to me and say somebody violated them, I'm breaking you up. It's simple. That didn't happen with math. There was nobody jumping out the window for Kiki. It was so many men that was saying, hey, you guys, she's a good chick. I know her. She would never bother anybody, but nobody was jumping out the window for her because niggas didn't believe the evidence. Nobody believed it, right? Nobody believed it. So now, here we go. I did say I can't put it past him because of the bully persona, but then no proof, plus it just didn't make sense. The bully persona, that's not enough, man. And that's the thing. That's why I tell a lot of brothers, don't be so aggressive. Don't let people see your aggression like that. Unless you're trying to protect yourself, you don't need to let people see your aggression because they're automatically going to assume. That's what they're going to do. They're automatically going to assume. And that's what happened with Math. But salute to Math. That's my brother. Salute to Math, sending my love. But yeah, back to Cosby. Let's get back to the bill because I don't want to stay off of this. I don't even know if this video is gonna last. I don't know how people are feeling on YouTube. I don't know how people might feel about watching this and some of the things I'm saying. But I gotta speak my mind. I gotta speak my mind. It's nothing I can do but speak my mind. Okay. So as I was saying, the Me Too movement, right? Let's see what year that started. Let's see what year that started because now how I'm seeing this, right? Me Too movement. Bill Cosby is the first overturned conviction in the Me Too era. You know how many people got clipped during this era? We watched everybody. We seen the. Ooh, let's look up this list. Let's look up this list. Let's look up this list. So now look at this, right? The Me Too movement started in 2006. I was a teenager. I was a teenager in 2006. Yeah. Yeah. The Me Too movement started in 2006. I was literally probably just getting out of high school. I was probably just getting out of high school. The Me Too movement started, right? So let's look this up. We're going to break this down, right? So look at this, right? So Tarana Burke, a social activist and community organizer, began using the phrase Me Too in 2006, right? On MySpace. This was to promote empowerment through empathy among women of color who had been sexually abused, right? She was born in the Bronx, 1973, September 12th, right? She lived in poverty, low income family. She was raped and sexually assaulted both as a child and teenager. Her mother encouraged her to help others who had been through what she had been through. She moved to Alabama and Selma, where she gave birth to a daughter, Kaya Burke, and raised her as a single parent. Burke, who is creating a documentary titled Me Too, has said she was inspired to use the phrase after being unable to respond to a 13-year-old girl who confided to her that she had been sexually assaulted. So that's where she came out with the term Me Too. In 2015, Ambra Gutierrez, the New York Times reported that Weinstein was questioned by police after a 22-year-old woman accused him of touching her inappropriately, right? That was Weinstein, right? 2016, Russia and Ukraine. A social media post by Ukrainian journalist Anastasia Melenchenko went viral. Thousands of women and some men in Russia and Ukraine began posting their personal stories of sexual harassment and assault, right? 2017, Alyssa Milano, Charmed. Alyssa Milano, following widespread exposure of accusations of predatory behavior by Harvey Weinstein in her own blog post on the subject on October 15, 2017, actress Alyssa Milano wrote, quote, "If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write Me Too" as a reply to this tweet, and reposted the following phrase suggested by a friend, quote, "If all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem." They've gotten Anthony Weiner, Harvey Weinstein. Now, mind you, Anthony Weiner was the one where they dubbed the term sexting. And that wasn't even, let me see. June 2011. Anthony Weiner. And this is the crazy thing. Look at how all of this spawns, right? Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. Right? So now, oh man. So now look at this, right? I got the campaign. I got the campaign right here. Bill Cosby had a campaign. He's television royalty, but Bill Cosby thinks the medium is less than cool. Now, having co-founded the so-called media insiders and thrilled the restless sharks in the mergers and acquisitions pool, Cosby is poised to make a serious attempt at taking over NBC. All right? This was Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair put this article up. This article was put up. Now, let me see who is the writer of this article. And this is why I love the internet, because forget Google. When you know how to search for things, you can find everything. So, he's entertainment's Ross Perot. This is what they called Cosby and Vanity Fair. Cosby's bid for NBC is a crusade rooted in the values of Martin Luther King Jr. and Jesse Jackson, and inspired by the cancellation of his Here and Now sitcom. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? Vanity Fair piece. August 1993. This is a Vanity Fair piece from August 1993. This is almost 30 years old. You see this Vanity Fair piece right here? This is almost 30 years old. Bill tried to buy NBC in 93. I was like this tall. And so now check this out. It can't be done. He's not serious. It can't be done. He's not serious. Bill Cosby was interested in buying NBC from General Electric, from GE. Who would have thought that GE was the ones who owned NBC? I'm learning this. I didn't know GE owned NBC at that time. I thought, because I know Comcast just acquired NBC in an acquisition for, I think it was like $23 billion or something like that, or $30 billion. But I didn't know GE owned it. And that's where Comcast got it from. All right, so let's read. I'm gonna read up on this. I don't even, at this point, it doesn't even matter who's watching now, because it's all about who's gonna watch later and the message that's getting across. All right. Oh. Analysts on both coasts saw Cosby's quest as quixotic, an innocence tilting at windmills, peacock feathers blowing in the wind, maybe even a publicity stunt. After all, this wasn't Geffen, Diller, or Davis. Cosby's chances they assessed as slight to slightest, but while they publicly scoffed a long line of M&A-starved investment banking firms, including Bear Stearns, Salomon Brothers, Merrill Lynch, and Goldman Sachs, as well as European firms, even interested investors from South America and China, were casting about wildly for an any Cosby and his people at the William Morris's agency in New York. The story faded, but Cosby has kept on despite Jay Leno jokes and the continuing skepticism of those who may have their own plans for NBC. Extremely knowledgeable sources confide that America's favorite comedian has linked his campaign with an elite management group and has hired Goldman Sachs to find financing for a serious run at NBC. He hired Goldman Sachs. Behind the scenes arrangements are proceeding for an offer in the $4 billion range. Cosby wanted it for $4 billion. It was only $4 billion at that time. That's light. That's light. How much is Tidal worth? $4 billion is nothing. It's worth about 30 now, 25, 30 now, but 4 billion? Who would have ever thought? He would. The original target date for the offer to GE chairman Jack Welch was June 3rd of 1993. But the delay, they kept pushing it back because they knew if he would have put his everything into it, he would have been able to purchase and acquire NBC. So what they called it was, um, so Robert Wussler is a president of CBS Sports, right? Senior executive vice president of Turner Broadcasting. Now, a lot of people don't know that Bill Cosby was on the board for Turner Broadcasting. Bill Cosby was trying to get rid of HBO back in the day. A lot of comedians probably wouldn't have came about if Cosby made that move. They probably would have got their start a little bit later because, you know, HBO, Def Comedy Jam, Russell Simmons, it was so much. But a lot of people wouldn't have, a lot of people probably wouldn't have got their start at that moment if Cosby would have pushed a button on that and they would have said get rid of HBO. But Robert Wussler, like I said, president of CBS Sports, senior executive vice president of Turner Broadcasting, and CEO of Cosmat Video Enterprises. They call him Wussler the Hustler, brilliant golden boy who always manages to do the right thing when it comes to this money, right? So the group, it was called the Cosby Wussler Management Group, right? They plotted a specific plan strategically designed to enhance profitability right away and reestablish affiliate relations once they were to acquire this NBC network, right? Cosby was originally willing to underwrite at least part of the deal personally. He now thinks he won't use his own money. And this was another thing that made them very afraid because not only was Cosby willing to go all in with the deal, but he found investors that were willing to invest so where he wouldn't have to pay. He wouldn't come out of his pocket. They don't like that. What do you mean? You found a way for people to invest in you, black man, to buy our network? And you found a way to make them their money right back within the first year? Oh no, we don't like you. We don't like that. They didn't like that. They didn't like that. He was willing to underwrite what he was going to make in order to pay back the investors. That's how you do business. I will lose money so that way I can get something off the ground and put all the work I need to put in because the money's going to come. Once you have it, that's what counts. Once you have the property, once you have the money, that's what you have to look at, right? So, so bad to shareholders for original payment of $6.3 billion for the network and parent RCA. You guys remember RCA? You guys remember on April 12th, Welch gathered members of the news division at 30 Rockefeller Plaza to make the point that NBC, now the third place network, was not up for grabs. Publicly billed as a show of support for recently installed, Welch's PR in Studio 8 in Manhattan, which is the home of Saturday Night Live, ended up with the assessment, we really feel like we're turning the corner, right? Cosby, not surprisingly, about his NBC plans, by mid-June, he was telling reporters, I'm not commenting until the damn thing is finished. One thing is clear, Cosby's ambitions is not financially motivated, but is fueled instead by specific creative, ideological, and even spiritual beliefs. Cosby was, this is a man that received his doctorates in 1976. This is almost 50 years ago Cosby received his doctorate degree. He was 30, 32, 33. He received his doctorate degree. And the crazy thing is that when this happened, there were so many people. It was so many people who were willing to invest in Cosby. You just go through the articles and read. So many people were willing to invest in Bill Cosby. They wanted him to purchase NBC. They wanted to see something new for NBC. And what happened was NBC made sure that Cosby couldn't actually purchase it. So this is what happened. Cosby, one of his business partners, was accused of embezzlement. $8.5 million of embezzlement. A woman. That kind of tainted things, took things off course. Mm. So now look at this right here. Vanity Fair, November 30th during a fundraising dinner for Mayor David Dinkins. So now David Dinkins was in office when Larry Davis went on a run in New York City. When those cops came and served him and was serving his baby moms, and when his girl got killed and everything like that, Larry wilded out. 13 days on the run. David Dinkins was in office. This is when David Dinkins was in office. All right. So November 30th, during a fundraising dinner for Dinkins' re-election, Cosby was expected to deliver a speech. Instead, he went on a riff about Jewish-black relations in the aftermath of the Crown Heights riots, which pitted Hasidim living in the Brooklyn neighborhood against African-American residents. Cosby was speaking on things that were going on at the moment. People didn't like that. A lot of the Jewish people in the community felt that Bill Cosby were making fun of them. They were mad at him. That right there was also one of the reasons why I feel personally it was hard for him to purchase NBC, because they just couldn't take the reality of what this man was saying. And though he said things in a joking manner, we all know the humor is there to cover the pain of the truth. Mm-mm. This is my thing. I'm not gonna. I don't want to stay here too long. I already had y'all here forever. This is my thing, right? 83 years old. He did 3 years of his sentence. I think they started this process when he was 79, turning 80, right? So he did 3 years of some change, right? We have over 50 women across the country accusing him. 50 women, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Here's the complete list. I'm so sorry. Here's a complete list of women. Pamela in 1979. You gotta, when she was 25, in a statement that a producer introduced her to Cosby, who met her in Vegas, paid her $2,500 for her outfit, and brought her to a show. She thinks someone put something in her drink because later in the night she says she blacked out, but remembers seeing that she was in Cosby's bed with two other naked people. Right? Jewel Allison, a writer, Allison says she was asked by her agent to meet Cosby for dinner. Her agent asked her to meet Cosby for dinner around the late 1980s or early 1990s. This is my problem. Be exact. When something happens to you, there is no such thing as you don't know when it happened. When something is traumatizing, you remember. You remember. Okay? When something's traumatizing, you remember. You remember like there's no tomorrow. Why? Because it's traumatizing. That's why you remember. Okay? There's all 60 women right here. I want to go through this list so I can look at the dates and read them off to y'all. All right? Because this is what's bothering me. Besides this, They said that they let him go on a technicality due to the fact that he already struck a deal with prosecutors previously that barred him from any future convictions on this case or anything surrounding it. So why did they lock him up in the first place then? Because that is what? Double jeopardy? Is that not double jeopardy? Should he not be able to sue the entire penal system in Philadelphia? Pay him for all the time that he been in jail, all the money he could have made, all the time he missed on the street. They owe him. They owe Bill Cosby. If he struck a deal that barred him from future convictions, that barred him from future imprisonment based upon this case and the situation and facts around it, they were not in the position to lock him up. They should have not locked him up again. Why did it take 3 years and some change for them to say, oh no, this deal that you struck means that we weren't supposed to lock you up? They owe him. Pay me now. Pay me now, stupid, dummies, Philadelphia justice system, fools, right? So look at this. Jewel Allison, this is the second person. She said her agent asked her to meet Cosby. Meet Cosby in the late 1980s or early 1900s. Early 1990s. They don't even have a specific time. She says she went to dinner where she was the only guest and felt sick upon sipping her drink. She says she remembers waking up, seeing semen, and becoming nauseated, and that Cosby later put her hand on his genitals. Janice Baker, a former bartender, testified against Cosby in court. She said that at a house party in Reno, Nevada in 1982, he drugged her and did things against her will. So, Pamela, Abeda, Jewel Allison, and Janice Baker, these women are all hitting him with charges or accusing him of things that happened in the 70s and the 80s. They're saying that this happened in the 70s and 80s, 20, 30 years? I'm confused. My thing is that black men were even more in danger back then than we're in very much danger now, because as long as you got this skin, they are afraid of you. I know that for sure. As long as you got this, they're afraid of you. The fact that my genetics work like this means that my ancestors was in the field. The fact that I could feel so much power emanating through my body, and I haven't touched a workout, a weight, I haven't done a push-up in over a week. The fact that my body feels like this, that I can go like this, and you see striations in my arm, that's genetics. That's what they're afraid of, these slave catchers. Let's continue. Because I'm confused. If this man is guilty of all of these things, you trying to tell me that they wasn't trying to kill him back then? They would have tried to take Cosby's head off in the 70s. Black people weren't safe. We're not safe now. We were definitely not even safe back then. We didn't have the heart. A lot of us don't have that heart now, and that's the problem. It's like it reversed. You had millions with heart back then, but they were killing us by the dozens. You got so many people right now that's weak-minded and afraid to do what Sammy Davis did. They're afraid to do some of these other, Nat Turner. They're afraid. So that puts the slave catchers right back in a position for them to look back, and they can tell, they can smell fear. Even cowards can smell fear when they know they're smarter than you. Hello. Let me see 1 second. Okay. Donna Barrett. In 2004, when Barrett was posing for a photo at a track meet at a university in Pennsylvania, she says Cosby grabbed her tightly from behind and pressed himself on her backside. In 2004. So this is what, 17 years ago? 2004. He's 83 now. He was 66. Could he have done that? Possibly. Lily Bernard. And I'm not saying possibly like, whatever. But what I'm saying is that if he did that, okay, cool. Hit him with a fine. You can't lock somebody up. You can't lock some 66, 70-year-old man up for grabbing ass. That don't even, you know, that don't even, I don't know. Like, but did he actually do that? Like, I don't know. Did he actually do that? I don't know. I don't know. Lily Bernard, a former actress who accused Cosby of drugging her when she was guest starred on the 1992 episode of The Cosby Show. Quote, "It is a victory for womanhood," Bernard said after leaving the courtroom in tears following Cosby's guilty verdict. "It is a victory for all sexual assault survivors, female and male." Barbara Bowman. She told The Cut magazine, as a 17-year-old aspiring actress and model in 1985, she was introduced to Bill Cosby. For the next 2 years, Cosby flew her to events, moved her to New York, and repeatedly drugged and raped her until she wriggled out of his grasp. What? She wriggled out of his grasp? Linda Brown, the former model, in a statement said Cosby took her to dinner in 1969. You see this? In 1969? That was 52 years ago. That was 52 years ago. 1969? Autumn Burns, an aspiring actress who said Cosby raped her in a Las Vegas hotel room in about 1970. Sarita Butterfield, former Playboy bunny, told The Cosby invited her to 1997 Christmas Eve dinner with his family at his Massachusetts home. After seeing her magazine spread, she says his wife and kids were elsewhere when Cosby aggressively groped her breast and tried to kiss her until she threatened to alert his family. "Today, I feel a victory in my soul." Renita Shanae Hill. She was 15, aspiring actress, said publicly in Pittsburgh and later in a lawsuit she filed he routinely raped her after she auditioned for a series of educational videos produced by Cosby in the mid-80s. He would fly her to cities, meet up with her, give her drinks. Her lawsuit was later dismissed. Lisa Christie, 18-year-old model. She said in 1989, he flew her to Chicago and tried to rape her in the hotel room. She rejected his drink and his advances and left after Cosby threatened her career because she refused to sleep with him. Andrea Constant, the chief accuser in the Cosby retrial that found him guilty, now 45, says Cosby drugged and molested her at his home in 2004 when she worked at Temple University. Lachelle Covington, when she was 20 in 2000. Now this is 21 years ago. Shanice Dickinson, a hotel room in Lake Tahoe in 1982. Dottie, in 1984, she went to Cosby's New York brownstone to audition after missing an open call audition for his show. He gave her a drink and spun her around. She says she vomited and Cosby disrobed her, washed her, and raped her. Later, he tried to have phone sex, she says. Elizabeth. She says she was 20-year-old American airline flight attendant who was, in 1976, invited to the Playboy Mansion by Cosby. Joyce Emmons became friends with Cosby. She managed comedy clubs in the late 1970s, and around 1980, she told TMZ and The Cut she asked Cosby for Tylenol for a headache. He gave her something stronger. After taking the pill, she woke up in bed with Cosby's friends. And this was around 1980. This is crazy. You got Beth Ferrier after a show in Colorado in 1980s, Carla Ferrigno. This is what threw me off. Bodybuilder Lou Ferrigno's wife and a former Playboy bunny, Ferrigno said on Inside Edition that she was on a double date with Cosby and his wife, but was left alone with Cosby, who tried to give her a drink and forcibly kiss her in 1967. Charlotte Fox, an actress in her 20s during the 1970s. Uptown Saturday Night, Cosby tried to do something to her. Tamara Green, a retired California attorney. In 1969, she was 19, went to lunch with Cosby. He gave her pills. Chloe Goin, the model Las Vegas dancer. She was 18. Cosby spiked her drink at a Playboy Mansion. What was an 18-year-old doing in the Playboy Mansion? That was my thing with that case, with that victim. Why were you in the Playboy Mansion at 18? Shouldn't that shit be 21 years or older? Because now, if you're in a Playboy Mansion at the age of 18, in the Playboy Mansions like Vegas, at whatever happens here stays here, that means, you know how much forms and NDA forms is being signed in order for you to get inside that Playboy Mansion? Helen Gumpel, former model and actress who starred on The Cosby Show in 1987. Helen Hayes. After meeting Cosby at a tennis tournament in Pebble Beach in 1973, the former legal secretary, who's now in her 80s, says Cosby followed her around and eventually grabbed her breasts. Colleen Hughes, 1970s Los Angeles Hotel. Michelle Hurd, 1995, The Cosby Mysteries. She had lunch with him, dressing room, weird exercises. He would put his hands up and down her body. She turned down an invitation to his house. Judy Huff. She was 15. She met Cosby while shooting a movie in Los Angeles. Where were her parents? Beverly Johnson. This hurt me the most, man. Beverly in the mid-80s, the supermodel, auditioned for a bit for The Cosby Show. She wrote on Vanity Fair. She met with Cosby at his Manhattan home. He suggested she pretend to be drunk for a scene and gave her a cappuccino. Johnson took a few sips, immediately realized she'd been drugged, cursed at Cosby, and felt him drag her down the stairs. She alleges that he threw her in a cab where she passed out. Casey, aka Kelly Johnson, an assistant to Cosby's agent in the 1990s, testified at the first trial as the sole other accuser, allowed to tell the story of what she said Cosby did to her. She said she was invited to his bungalow in 96. He gave her a large white pill. She took at his repeated insistence. She claimed that she remembers waking up in bed with a naked Cosby. Lisa Jones, accuser number 30, 17-year-old aspiring actress in the 1980s. Once again, here we got Linda Kirkpatrick, 31, victim number 31. She said that in 1981, Cosby gave her a drink backstage that tasted bad and made the rest of the night a blur. Sindra Ladd, a former entertainment executive who wrote in the Huffington Post that in 1969 she was 21. In 1969? That's like 20 years before I was born. Come on. She was one of the 5 other accusers who allowed, look at this, Shalon Lasha, 17-year-old aspiring model and actress, met Cosby in Vegas in 86. Why is all of these 17-year-old women meeting him in the hotel? Where is the adults? Where are the parents at? This is what I'm confused. I'm so confused. Patricia Leary Stewart, an aspiring singer who accused Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting her on separate occasions in 1978 and in 1980 when she was in her early 20s. Angela Leslie, 1992. Lisa, 1988. Lassay Lade Lublin, 1989. She was 23. PJ Maston told The Cut in New York Daily News she met Cosby at the Playboy Club in Chicago in 1979. Look at all of these people. Sammy Mays, 1987. She's now 60. Catherine McKee, the actress and casting agent, says Sammy Davis Jr.'s girlfriend. Oh, Catherine McKee was Sammy Davis Jr.'s girlfriend that had known Cosby for several years before he raped her in a Detroit hotel room in the 1970s. Louisa Moritz, an actor best known for One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, accused Cosby of shoving his penis in her mouth in the dressing room. Donna Motzinger, Bay Area waitress. Cosby assaulted her when she was 28 in 1972 after inviting her to his comedy show and giving her wine in a limousine. Rebecca Lynn Neal, it just says in her early 80s she was a masseuse at the health club where Cosby played tennis. He drugged and sexually assaulted her. That's all it says for her. Linda Ridgway, an aspiring actress who alleged that Cosby forced her to perform oral sex on him in his office in 1971. Victim 45, Christina Ruelli, a talent agent. These people have great positions in life. A talent agency secretary who alleged that in 1965 when she was 22. She was 22 in 1965. So, 56 years later, she would be 78. Okay, she's 78 now. Invited her to his home and she passed out after Cosby gave her 2 drinks. She woke up, he was trying to perform oral sex. Therese Serendiz, a Florida nurse, 1976. You see these dates? You see the dates? Woody Allen raped his daughter. Woody Allen had an Woody Allen adopted daughter. He sexually assaulted her. He was in her room doing things to her. Nobody has said anything about Woody Allen. Why is no one saying anything about Woody Allen? And this is not for me to say, if Bill did it, he's wrong, or trying to make comparisons. But Woody Allen, a director, big in Hollywood, why hasn't he been brought to court? Why isn't he not in jail for openly touching his adopted daughter? Why is Charlie Sheen not incarcerated for having sex with multiple women while he knew he had contracted the HIV virus? Margie Shapiro, she says in a statement she was 19 working at Castle Donuts in Santa Monica, 1975. Here we go again. Cosby invited her to a film set. Where are all of these people at that are sitting there and saying, oh, I remember this person, I remember that person? Where are these people at? Where were their friends? Where were their parents? Joan Tarshish, a former comedy writer who accused Cosby in an open letter, 1969. She was 19. Marcella Tate, 1975. She was 27. Heidi Thomas, one of the first 5 accusers to testify at retrial, 24 years old she was. Jennifer Thompson, she was 18 in 1989. He paid her $700. He paid her $700. She said she had trust and self-esteem issues, but she kept going back. Eden Turl, 22-year-old actor in 1989, says she met Cosby after a taping of The Cosby Show. Linda Joy Traits, A former waitress at a restaurant he owned said she was 19 when Cosby offered her drugs and became aggressive with her, groping her and tearing her skirt at a Los Angeles area beach. Where is everybody at? Like Sean Upshaw Brown, the Daily Mail. Cosby drugged and raped her in the 1970s. Damn. Victoria Valentino, 1970s. She was 24 years old. Sharon Van Eert, 1976. Pardon me. This is insane. You got Suni Wells, which is 50, the victim number 57, a singer who says she met Cosby, who was a family friend, as a young girl. She was 17. He took her to a jazz club where she recalls drinking a soda and then waking up in bed naked in an apartment. Right? You have, in essence, destroyed so very much of my life. Not only who I am today at 70, but who I was, who I could have been or would have become. Then you have victim 58, 59, and 60. 3 Jane Does. Each one was of the anonymous 13 Jane Does, some of whom have since revealed their names, who agreed to testify in the original 2005 civil suit filed by Cosby. Look at that. 60 victims. 60 victims. The majority of these victims are saying that Cosby did this in the 60s and the 70s, right? We are so far removed from having respect for women that if he did do something like this during that time, I do believe that people would have overlooked it. But I feel that as a black man, we as black men cannot get away with something like that, whether especially in the 70s, the 60s, the 80s. Now, oh, you can forget it. You can forget it. I mean, granted, we do have to remember these colleges built off of the blood, sweat, and tears of slaves. These colleges and these white coaches with these athletes, they tend to give these athletes a slap on the wrist. Oh, you got what? What happened? And a lot of these girls aren't respected at these colleges. They're not respected. The humiliation has already set in for Cosby. They humiliated him. They didn't even try, they did it. But now the question is, where do they go from here? Do they compensate him for the time that he was incarcerated? Because the law states that double jeopardy is double jeopardy. You cannot incarcerate me for this if I had copped out to a plea back then and an agreement that would protect me from ever being sentenced. But they still went forward and did it for 3+ years. That's the crazy thing. I'm pretty sure somebody saw in the paperwork, oh, we can't do this because he can't be tried again under the same, and they overlooked it and kept going. Anybody who feels any kind of way about this man being home, anyone who is excited about him being home, anyone who has mixed feelings about him being home, feel free to comment. Feel free to comment. We can talk about this. I actually want to do a part 2 and part 3 to this, where I actually have people around me to talk and give their point of view and how they feel about situations of this nature, because it is very important that things like this get put out in the open. We talk about it openly. We talk about this amongst each other, and we have an open table discussion where everybody can tune in and listen in. People can comment. People can call in. That's what I want to do, because like I said, the Me Too movement was started in 2006. This is the first overturned conviction. This is the first overturned conviction since the Me Too movement started, since its inception in 2006. This is the first. Bill Cosby is the first overturned conviction of the Me Too movement in 14 years. There has been no overturned convictions this entire 14 years, 15 years of the Me Too movement. It started in 2006. So listen, for y'all that's tuning in right now, the Me Too movement started in 2006, almost 15 years ago. Bill Cosby is the first person to ever have an overturned conviction during this movement. Let that sink in. Love, life, and loyalty is the motto. Stay safe, stay real, and stay true. You rock with me, I rock with you.